What's up, guys? This is Steve Anchetta over at Zig.ai, founder and CEO. I'm here with Andy Becerra, our customer success engineer on the team. You're obviously also the newest member of our team, right? Let's get two things out of the way first and foremost. Like, let's talk about your background because you're not your average sales guy. You've done a lot of stuff in customer-facing roles. So you want to run through just a few of those?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been from front-end door knocker kind of sales, right, to more of an inside cold calling, transition into a sales engineer with really designing the sales, and then account management, back end, kind of been all over the place when it comes to the flow.
Right? You want to kind of talk about like, what is the role of a sales engineer? I'm going to give you mine in a second, but I want to hear yours and then we'll give you mine.
Ultimately, keep salespeople honest, right? A lot of salespeople will say they know a certain product, or unfortunately, not all of them are very honest, or they kind of list some features and just to close the sale. But we really keep it honest to make sure that they just end up happy with the end product.
Yeah. I think that, like, for me, the biggest thing with being a sales engineer is like, you got to take the really complicated shit that is in the product, and then you got to simplify it for the customer, right? Because sometimes, like, you know, if you're not a good layer of translation between that transaction, things can get lost in that translation. So like, I always felt as a sales engineer, like my job was to like make sure that anything that sounded really complicated, I can make it simple to understand for a customer. And more than anything, I think it's valuable to understand. Like, here's what it's going to do for you, not just here's what it does. So now you're a customer success engineer. And obviously I really want to talk about that because that's kind of a really new concept, right? I know I designed it. It really is like a layer of, you saw this a lot in forward deploy engineering, right? And then I, you know, for our design, it's a little bit different, customer success engineering. So what is a customer success engineer? Like, walk us through like a very high level of your day-to-day with a customer.
Yeah, I mean, it really starts in the early stages of closing a deal almost, right? And salespeople have their discovery calls and onboarding, and you essentially jump on right prior to onboarding and really understand the customer, what they need, what's messed up, what they want to fix, what they want to establish, and what they want to produce. Then you walk them through that, and you're essentially kind of hand-holding it to an extent, but you allow them to give you the feedback. That's really what you're doing, is you're listening throughout the whole journey, from beginning to end, and you become a friend as well, along as a business partner.
Yeah, I think, I mean, when I was designing the customer success engineer role, the reason I didn't just call it a FDE is because FDE, I think, is a great position. I think you're going to start seeing a lot of it at companies, especially as AI companies start selling directly to businesses, right? Which will, you know, has already begun, but I think it's going to grow in the next few years. The one thing that I felt like was missing is like, an FDE goes in, does this really deep work with you, but then that's the last you know, that they're kind of involved, and then you move on to somebody else. One of the biggest gripes I always had, not only as a customer, but also as somebody who led sales organizations, was I really hated that break in customer support from like, here's your sales guy. There's a lot of big SaaS companies that do this. Here's your sales guy. He did this whole rapport building, built out, you know, the idea of the solution for you. And then you onboarded, and then there's this like dead period, right? And then, by the way, here's a customer success manager that you have no rapport with, you've never spoken, and now they're going to build rapport with you for the foreseeable future. Like, do you think that process was broken?
You feel like there's just this unemotional handoff, right? And there's really no rapport within that customer success X with the end user and the customer, and they feel like they're just another box being checked. Right. And I definitely make it a purpose to make them not feel that way, but it also allows honest feedback throughout that journey as well.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, and your job's pretty dynamic, dude. So it changes. I've heard you on calls, and it changes because some customers want a certain thing, and what we do, I think, really well on our product and engineering side is we deliver quickly, right? And we're very honest with, hey, no problem, or hey, you know what, we're not going to do that because here's why, because you're going to fall into X, right? Where do you feel like, what job that you had before do you feel like most prepared you for being a CSE?
I would say being in mid-market to enterprise sales, strategic sales mainly, that prepared me due to the failures in the process where I was at, right? Establishing the relationship with the customer was great, but I owned my process. And any support that I had or lack thereof really hindered the success, right? And them being happy. So I found that just being self-sufficient was the best approach, and learning every point of the process, from deployment, engineering, back-end, project management, and just being able to do it yourself to the extent that you possibly could. Right? And I found that just working and collaborating with those groups was the best way to do it.
What do you think? I mean, you've had a long sales career, right? We've known each other for quite some time. What do you think? I always like to kind of end it this way is if you could talk to the next generation of salespeople, right? And give them one piece of advice that they can take through the rest of their career that's going to be valuable. Like, what would that be? Like looking back into binoculars that went back in time, 20 years when you started your career, like what would you have told yourself?
Listen and be humble. That's really it. I don't think there's enough listening going on. And I know it's an old tale, right? People say stop hearing and start listening. I think even myself, before I matured into that phase, I wasn't really grasping what was being relayed to me. We also understand that maybe they don't have the words to tell you what they want, how they want it. They can give you an idea, but it's really you listening and seeing how you can bring that to inception.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great, dude. I mean, active listening, I think, is one of the most powerful, like, strategies you can use when talking to a customer. And then the second thing is you said it, be humble, but part of being humble, I think, is also being honest, right? And I'm not saying that salespeople aren't honest. What I'm saying is that sometimes you're too scared to tell a customer you can't do something.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's okay. Like I tell salespeople all the time, like, it's okay to say no because the customer is going to respect you more for it. We just had a situation, you were on that call, where a customer wanted something and it was out of our scope, right? We could do piece of it, but we couldn't do the other piece. And rather than trying to force us to augment that second piece that we knew we probably weren't going to be good at, we said, hey, this is the part that we can do and we can do it really well. And what ended up happening, they ended up circling back around.
Yeah, exactly. You could definitely sleep at night knowing that you gave someone the right direction or kind of stop them in the tracks and guided them through that.
For sure. Yeah, I always say, like, I think customers, they know, like you said, the idea of what they want,
Right.
and they just need that guidance, right? And for you to be their partner in the process.
Yeah.
So, no, man, I appreciate it, dude. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
I love the perspective, and thanks for coming by.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks, dude.
All right.